Hi, you guys. Um, this video is going to be different. I decided to do it while Uriel's not home because I knew if I did it while he was home, it would probably bother him. He doesn't like hearing this. Um, and that's mainly out of love. I think when you love somebody so much, you don't like to hear stories about them being hurt. So, obviously, by the title, you know that this is about domestic violence. And I also have my own story with domestic violence. And being that it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I figured that I should share that with you guys. It's kind of weird too because it's not something that I really talk about. Like it's only like a handful of people that know. And obviously, when I post this video up, everybody's gonna know, which is fine. It's just one of those things that's not very easy to talk about. I'm sure you guys, if you've ever been through it or you know someone that's been through it, you understand. So basically, the background is that when I was a teenager, I um I had two separate domestic violence situations. Neither one were physical. So for a very long time, I didn't really know what to call it. I knew it was abuse, but because I wasn't getting hit, I didn't know if I had the right to call it domestic violence. Not until I got older did I really understand what happened, especially with the first situation because I was pretty young, like a pretty young teenager, like 15, 16. So, um, with that situation, it was a little different. It definitely caused its damage because I was already very insecure, and this person fed on that all the time. Just making comments about my body, making comments about my looks in general, just constantly wanting to be in control of my life. But because that was a long distance relationship, there was only so much that that person could do. It definitely hurt me, but it was easier to navigate through than the second situation. The second situation was a little bit more complicated. It was about a year before I met Uriel. Well, a year before Uriel and I started dating, I should say. Um, I was 18, just turned 18, pretty much, like freshly 18. And I met this man, and he said he was 29, but he was actually 32. And when I met him, I knew that I didn't want to be with him. And then you'll probably wonder, well, if you didn't want to be with him, why did you start dating him? Um, a lot of it was manipulation. And then a lot of it was also, I was afraid to say no. He was the type of person where he wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I felt like if I said no, it would make things worse than if I said yes. I know that doesn't make any sense, but you have to understand my age and all of that. You have to take all that into consideration. And my history with men was already bad. I shouldn't say men because besides him, they were all teenagers like me. But you get the point. So we start seeing each other, and I would say within the first week and a half, he started showing signs of abuse to me. And I knew what those signs were because obviously I had experiences in the past. Um, so he would start saying things like, I don't want you having any male friends. I don't. Sorry, you guys, I ran out of memory. I had to delete some old footage and stuff. But like I was saying, he would say things like, I wasn't allowed to have male friends. If I was going out somewhere, I had to let him know where I was going. Um, I had to video chat with him every night. Like, it wasn't an option. He would call me if I didn't call him, and I would have to pick up. If I didn't pick up, he would freak out. Um, and then as the weeks went by, there was something repetitive that he would say every single day that I noticed, and it was probably the main thing that really alarmed me. Is he would say, "If you cheat on me, I'm gonna whoop your." Mm. And I remember being like, we just started seeing each other, and I've never given you a reason to think that I'm gonna cheat on you. And he would say, "Okay, well, if you don't cheat on me, you have nothing to worry about." My thing was this: if that's the case, what if you think that I'm cheating and I'm not? So you're just gonna hit me because you suspect that I'm cheating? It just started spiraling. And then there was one day we were hanging out. Well, he came to my house, my apartment complex at the time. Came and picked me up. I got in the car and I was sitting there and I was feeling like scared. Like, I didn't know what was gonna happen. I felt uncomfortable. And then I felt bad because I was lying to my mom and my sister about where I was going and who I was with because he didn't want to meet them. And he kind of wanted to keep the fact that I was with him a secret from them because he was so much older. So I'm just really uncomfortable in the car, and then he makes it turn sexual. I'm like, okay. So we pull over somewhere, and it happens. I'm like, okay. Thinking back on it, that was probably the only time he made me feel good. Point blank. That I can't remember a time where I was happy to be with him other than that moment. That's insane. It's insane for me to even say. Especially being in such a different relationship for so long and now in a marriage, to say that the only time that my previous partner made me feel good was when it was sexual. And it was only sexual that one time. So yeah. Then we just sat and talked for a little bit. But it was like he was talking over me. Like, I would say something, he'd be like, he'd make me feel belittled, one, because of my age, and two, I just think that's how he was. I don't think he knew how to talk to a woman any other way other than that. I could try to give you an example, but it's hard because, like, basically, if I brought up something like music, he'd be like, "Oh, you don't know nothing. You sound stupid." Blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't even in a funny way. It was like he was serious, like I knew nothing. So it just made things worse. And the threats kept getting worse. He kept saying it was just because of cheating. Like, if I ever cheated, blah, blah, then he would start hitting me. But he would say it so frequently. It just tore me up. And the thing about him is that he was very, like, this was a big man. This man was 6'2", over 300 pounds. So if he put his hands on me, he could do some damage. Please believe me. Like, that was one of the most intimidating things about him was his size. And other than his size, I'd say his voice. And that's hard to explain because it's something you got to hear to understand. But there's like a grit and a roughness in his voice. Even when he's talking normal, it's like, it's something I can't really describe. But the relationship was short-lived. I only stayed with him for 3 months, and then I got out. I remember the day that I told him that I was leaving him. And I didn't tell him in person. I didn't want to see him. I knew if I saw him, he would try to convince me to stay, or he would threaten me. So basically, the first thing I did was send him a text like, hey, I need to talk to you, blah, blah. And so he called me. And he was like, what's going on? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't want to be with you. I can't do this. And he's like, do what? And I'm like, be with you. And he's like, why? He kept asking why. And I was like trying to move around it. I didn't want to say how I really felt because, one, I didn't want to give him the power of knowing that I was afraid of him. But also, two, I felt like it was going to set him off. And I was afraid. I was afraid of what would happen if he got set off. So I was trying to move around, and then finally I just screamed out, I'm afraid of you. Like, I said it like so loud. And he was like, quiet. He didn't say anything. And then he just said, okay, and hung up. And I just remember, like, the next few days I was so scared because I thought, he knows where I live. Like, he knows all these things about me, obviously, because we were together. Like, what if he comes and tries to do something? What if he tries to do something to my family because I left him? It was like all these things building up. And, like, even, like, years later, like, even with being with Uriel, I would still have nightmares sometimes, like, thinking that something was going to happen. Because I just didn't believe, because of the way he is, I just didn't believe he'd let it go. And I feel like if he really could, he would have done something. I'm not sure what happened or why he didn't. But it's like that fear, like, what's that girl's name that just got killed? I think her name was LaShonda, and she was dating a 28-year-old, and he killed her. He shot her in the head. Like, I can't explain how emotional I was when I heard that story, because you know how easily that could have been me. That easily could have been me. And what made me so mad at myself was that I didn't tell my family. Like, if I had told my mom or I had told my grandma, like, somebody could have helped me. But I was so scared, and I had all these different thoughts in my head, I didn't want to say nothing. And looking back on it, I wish I had said something. I really wish I had said something. And then, like, sometimes I felt like I would be silly for sharing this story because there's women that get beaten and all that, but this man played mental and emotional games with me the whole time we were together. And it was scary. It really was. It was really scary. I didn't know what to do. So basically, this has actually gone on longer than I was hoping I would. It's hard to put into detail that story because it doesn't sound as gruesome as somebody punching you or hitting you with something, but the damage that it caused. So I basically wanted to put the story out though, just to help other women and just put it out there. Like, everybody's story is different. And obviously domestic violence is not just getting hit upside the head. It's just not. There are so many different forms of it: sexual, emotional, verbal, mental, all that is included in it. So if you really feel like you're in danger or somebody's hurting you in any of those ways, just get out, please. Like, please. And it's not just women, it's men too. I'm just speaking from my perspective as a woman, because as a woman I can't explain how that feels for a man. But y'all too. Everybody, just get out. And I know it's not that easy. I know it's not. But, like, especially when you got people out here getting killed for leaving. I know. But it's just not good. Like, your partner's not supposed to do that to you. So, that's all I had to say. Hopefully I articulated this enough where y'all can understand. Obviously, I think you can probably see in my face, this is not a very easy thing for me to talk about. But I wanted to get it out there, especially while Uriel's not here, because, like I said, it bothers him. He doesn't like that story. And plus, there's no background noise or anything. So, yeah. But anyway, that's all I came on to say. Y'all be blessed, be safe, and I love y'all.